All right. Today we're going to be talking about all of the planets in the fourth house in astrology, giving you the full meaning explained. First, we're going to be talking about the physical manifestations of the fourth house and how they're affected by each planet. Then we talk about the psychological manifestations or the aspects of the fourth house. And when we're talking about each one of these, we're going to be going over the light and the shadow polarities. So the light side of the physical, the shadow side of the physical, the light side of the psychological manifestations, and the shadow side of the psychological manifestations when each planet is in the fourth house. As you can see, we got all of the archetypes associated with each planet, as we talked about in the last 3 videos. If you haven't seen them, I'd recommend going back to do it in order, to watch the entire series in order. And so we get started. We take the king, father, the leader, the masculine, most masculine planet, Graha, the sun, put it in the fourth house. How does that manifest? Well, you take the king and you put it in your home. Physical manifestations of the fourth house is your home, your land, and the mother, or the maternal caretaker, or however that manifested for you. So you have the maternal caretaker, you have the home, and you have land. Even, it's more psychological. So we'll talk about comfort zone when we talk about emotions, or when we talk about the psychology. But fourth house, land, home, mother, figure, or caretaker. So this is interesting because king, father, leader, masculine is kind of in the opposite house. And so this can make it an interesting dynamic. How does this manifest? Well, the maternal caretaker can take a more fatherly, paternal role, can have a more masculine, authoritative, let's say, role in your life or character in your life. The home, this is where your identity lies, your core identity, your destiny. This is also what the sun represents, your destiny. So focusing on the home, focusing on the internal landscape as well. Can also be the physical, ironically enough, is the physical internal landscape. And when it comes to land or one's homeland, you can have a strong identification with the homeland, with the home, with the mother. Now, in a positive manifestation, that's good. You have a consistent, reliable, very important, central dynamic with the mother, homeland, land, and homeland, home, and the mother. Negative, it could be authoritative, overly rigid, overly restrictive, not a lot of fun. The sun's all about making sacrifices, so you're making sacrifices at home, or there's conflict at home, but less in a martial way and more of just like two strong personalities butting heads. Can be terrified of your mother, or at home it can be, like I said, overly rigid or unreliable if the sun is afflicted as well, especially if it's being afflicted by North Node Rahu or say Saturn. There could be insecurity at home. There could be trauma at home because there's a lack of stability, a lack of reliability. The sun is the most reliant, consistent, firm planet, strong, powerful. One's home can also have a strong foundation or a weak foundation if the sun is weak or strong. Okay? Psychologically speaking, it's your emotions and your comfort zone. So your core identity is in your comfort zone. So you feel comfortable in your emotions. You feel comfortable focusing on your emotions. You get similar things if you have Sun in Cancer. Have an emotionally centered individual. Or if you have Leo holding the fourth cusp or in the fourth house, but to a lesser degree, like I talked about in the previous videos, the planets are always going to be more potent, more conspicuous, more visible, and noticeable to yourself and the people around you, because it's a conscious agent. It's a conscious piece of your psyche. It is a subpersonality that is active in the world and in yourself. And so you have your core identity seated in your emotions. So your emotional world is going to be very important. Working with your emotions is going to be part of your destiny. And finding emotional comfort. You will have the ability to find emotional comfort through action, through initiative, taking action. The downside of this, the shadow aspect or manifestation of this, is you only feel your comfort or your confidence is based off how you feel in that moment. And you will only take actions towards your destiny. You will only play the leader, the king, the masculine role when you feel like it. So you're not really willing to fulfill your duty. This is why the sun actually does well in the 10th house, is because you fulfill your destiny, you take care of your responsibilities, whether you feel like it or not. In the fourth, your core identity fluctuates with your emotional state. And so regulating your emotions is very, very important with sun in the fourth. Making sure that you're still doing the things you're supposed to be doing, even when you don't feel like it. It's very important with sun in the fourth. And it can lead to lethargy. It can lead to laziness. It can lead to an unfulfilling and low impact life, because you're waiting to feel like doing it, and that leads to inconsistency. It leads to a lack of confidence. It leads to a lack of reliability and firmness. People can't really rely on you. You have an unstable foundation with sun in the fourth. When it's afflicted, that's the shadow manifestation. As I said, from a psychological standpoint, also can have rigid emotional states, or a true detachment, like a disassociation from one's emotions. If you have an afflicted moon, or sorry, afflicted sun in the fourth, because it's your core identity. It's the core of who you are, the most unending, endurable aspect of your being. So if that is out of whack and detached from your emotions, that can cause a lot of trouble. Here we have the moon in the fourth, which is placement that I have, and the moon does well in the fourth. It's aligned with the natural sign. It's also the moon's favorite house, so moon does pretty good here. How does it manifest when it comes to your home? Well, a good, strong emotional connection with the mother, a nice comfort, emotional comfort and attachment to one's home, having a good home life that fulfills one's needs, because the moon's the queen, the mother, the child, the feminine, but it's all about getting your emotional needs, getting the things that you need, taking care of yourself, self-care. These are moon things. Fulfilling the queen role, making sure other people are taken care of, right? King's really more worried about expansion or fulfilling the duties and responsibilities of the kingdom, maintaining the core identity, the creed, and being consistent with that kingdom. The moon is more like making sure everyone's happy and healthy and being taken care of. Okay? So moon, you have a caring, nurturing environment at home, caring, nurturing, supportive mother, a positive emotional attachment to one's homeland, or your land, your country, nation state, whatever you want to call it, your tribe. But the opposite can be an over dependence on the mother, or can have emotional trauma with the mother. Can also have a home that has a lot of emotional turmoil at home, or a conflicted and emotionally complex relationship with one's nation, one's homeland. I know I have that right now. It's a fucking American. I would like to say it's no fault to my own, but I'm part of the sauce. I'm part of the experiment that is this crazy country during this time. And I'm in Northern Virginia, right outside DC. So I'm in the epicenter. I'm in the heart of the fuckery. So yeah, moon here can have some emotional conflict or some emotional turmoil with regards to one's relationship with one's country, one's land, one's homeland. From a psychological perspective, there can be a good understanding of one's emotions or emotional states and others as well. Self-awareness and emotional awareness, emotional intelligence can be very well developed here. Or, and also the ability to be mindful and feeling comfortable going inside of oneself to regulate one's emotions. Can have somebody that's more emotionally self-sufficient and able to regulate one's own emotions without having to go to other people. But if it's afflicted, then it's the opposite. Emotionally deregulated, needing to rely on other people, usually a caretaker or a mother figure, right? Needing to rely on others to regulate your emotions. Can have fear going into one's emotions. I mean, especially if you have Saturn, Rahu here, Ketu here, can cause problems. Even Mars can cause emotional conflict, turmoil. There's a couple other ways that can manifest negatively. We're not going to get into every single thing, but you get the point. Is it can create a fear and let's say an inability to face the inner blocks and the inner turmoil that's happening inside of oneself if the moon is afflicted. Because the biggest thing would be fear. Fear of one's home, fear of the mother, fear of one's emotions, not really feeling comfortable in one's own private space, needing to be out there to feel comfortable. Can't be alone. And that's another thing too, psychologically speaking, moon here when it's healthy, more comfortable being alone, more comfortable being in solitude, in meditation, fourth house significations. Able to take care of oneself. Now we put Mars, the warrior, the general, the pioneer, the will, in the fourth. This can cause problems because the warrior likes to be out in the battlefield. General likes to be out in public sphere, taking action, cutting off heads, taking names. The police officer out and about, cruising, riding around and getting it. But Mars is at home. And so you have someone who, well, we'll start with the light side. I'm overly shitting on Mars here. So you got Mars in the fourth, where it can be good, is somebody who is able to, let's say, do the work, solve problems at home, be a warrior at home, protect one's home. Okay. Can put a lot of effort at home, meaning developing oneself, be active in one's home, taking care of one's home, taking care of one's homeland, have a mother who is very active, was able to solve problems, to take care of you, to take care of any problems that stood in your way, any threats, any obstacles, any enemies, any challenges. When Mars is good there. And when it comes to just, your private life, your private space, because that's the fourth house as well, able to make sure that there's no problems and to take action to handle those problems as soon as they arise. Not leaving things up to fester and to mold and to get, dirty and congeal and I think I already said fester, but I like that word, so I'm gonna say it again. Fester. Not allowing things to fester. Ferment. Mold. Deteriorate. Sour. Soil. I'm like a thesaurus today. You're welcome. Now, the negative manifestation is, it's Mars. So fighting, conflict, battles. Well, you have a lot of battles, fighting, conflict at home or with the mother. You can have a very contentious, combative relationship with the mother. Can manifest with Mars in the fourth. Or with one's homeland, or live in a nation where there is war, where there is conflict, where there is a lot of battles happening. I don't got Mars in the fourth, but got that energy right here. So, it's not a one-to-one, not every time, but, especially in your private life too, internal conflict going on between the different parts of yourself. When you have Mars there, it's a lot of battling happening. And if it's good Mars, strong Mars, you can take care of it, you can handle it. If it's, weak Mars, afflicted, it'll be more difficult. It's going to take more conscious effort. You have to push against that karmic momentum that the birth chart signifies. When it comes to psychologically speaking, comfort zone is fixing problems. You feel comfortable at home, fixing problems, overcoming obstacles, battling enemies, developing oneself, also personal development. You might have like a at-home gym or like to work out at home or to compete at home. And when it comes to your emotions, you can have some strong, passionate, fiery emotions going on. Now, because Mars in the fourth, it's a hidden house, those can be repressed though. And that would manifest, how that manifests, can manifest in chronic bodily symptoms, especially when it comes to hormone regulation, constant anger, that's repressed, that's not integrated, can manifest in that way. Or, people pleasing, being overly docile and fighting the small battles that don't really matter and avoiding the bigger battles that would be actually fruitful. It's like only focusing on the tiny fires, but not focusing on the big fire because Mars is the firefighter. Or, focusing on what kind of donuts you're going to get as a cop and fighting over that, but not actually going out into the field and like taking care of crime. It can be Mars. Mars is too much at home. And so that's how it can negatively manifest psychologically, is that you're not able to exert yourself because you don't feel like it. Similar with the sun, but the sun is more about consistent effort. So this is almost like a consistent chronic problem of like really just being consistent because you're not moving towards your destiny. Mars is like, I'm not going to solve the big problem because I don't feel like it. Or I'm not going to fight that battle because I don't really feel like it right now. That sounds like effort, right? And can make somebody docile. It can make somebody passive and unproductive when Mars is in the fourth. Because the warrior's at home. drinking whiskey, watching TV, and yelling at his wife. It's like the worst manifestation, you know? Or that's what you see, you experience. Maybe you have like a, father figure at home that does that, you know? And if that is the case for you, I'm sorry you have to go through that. That is difficult. Luckily, I was spared. So I can't personally relate, but I've worked with people who've had Mars in the fourth and parents were fighting. A lot of contention, a lot of friction, a lot of strong energy. Mars in the fourth can be difficult. And also aspects your seventh house Mars, fourth from wherever Mars is, and that will trickle down to your relationships. So that's a whole other can of worms. We're not going to get too deep into it. Mercury in the fourth can have a very lighthearted, fun environment that's supportive of learning, trying new things, developing your skills, playing games at home. Homeland, you feel like you understand your homeland, you feel useful, you feel like the home that you grew up in, the space that you grew up in, gives you a lot of opportunity to develop your skills, to try things out, to have fun, a lot of freedom to develop things in many different areas, lots of things to explore and investigate and observe as the scientist, the observer, the detective, and the intellect. Don't let me forget to talk about Jupiter when I get to it, because I always forget in this series. But that's Mercury. And then when it comes to the mother, a mother who was playful, was supportive of your intellect, was supportive of you learning, taught you things, was intelligent herself. Communication is big and happens in a positive way in the home. Okay? When it comes to, like the homeland, like I said before, you have that freedom, there's communication, you're able to have the freedom to learn, and you feel like you can learn what you want, and you can follow your interests, follow your natural inclinations. When it comes to the shadow manifestation, well, overthinking, because it's the private life at home. Too much thinking, too much analyzing, not enough feeling, not enough emotion, not enough enjoying the present moment, enjoying your peace. Always thinking about things. Overthinking is the biggest thing. A mother who might not know how to communicate, or wasn't able to develop the skills, or wasn't willing to play with you, or to play games, or develop those things in your life. Or a maternal figure too. Like I said, it's not just the mother, but maternal figures, caring figures, which also can be the father. It's playing that maternal role. It's a role, it's an energy. It's not inherently just a gender, sex that's just like hard and fast. Okay? Pause. And then homeland, you feel restricted. You feel like you couldn't try the things that you wanted, when it came to maybe learning things, I doubt you're in North Korea, but like you grew up in North Korea or something, That would be like an extreme version of like an afflicted Mercury, where you feel really restricted and you can't learn the things that you want, or there's like censorship going on at home. There's censorship, or the nation itself is all about censorship, or you're censoring yourself through overthinking. So yeah, it's a lot of cerebral, neurotic energy at home in your private life with the mother in your homeland. Psychologically speaking, in comfort zone is thinking, trying things, developing your skills, because Mercury has a lot of similar significations to the third house that we did in the last video, if you didn't notice, but I'm sure you're observant and you've been following along, so you probably caught on to that. Communication as well is really important. And playing games, like you feel really comfortable, that really emotionally fulfills you. Not for everybody. Not everybody likes to play games in a sense that it fulfills them emotionally, gives them what they need to feel okay, to feel at peace. But Mercury, learning new things, gaining new information, developing skills, playing games, you feel at peace, you feel at home. When it comes to your emotions and regulating your emotions, you learn the skills, you develop the skills to regulate your emotions. You gather the information, you go online, you learn, you read books. You try things out to see what can help you feel more emotionally regulated, emotionally settled, how to maneuver your internal space with your intellect. And that is a positive manifestation, emotionally intelligent, but through the analytical faculties. Moon is emotional intelligence through the intuitive feeling. It's less thought. It's just more understanding how to naturally maneuver the emotions in a more effortless way. less thinking. Mercury is a methodical step-by-step, meaning that somebody with moon in the fourth will probably have a harder time actually helping other people learn how to regulate their own emotions without being in their presence or without interacting with them. Or Mercury can almost like make like a step-by-step guide about how to regulate one's emotions, or make a scientific method, or use the scientific method to observe what's the most optimal way to regulate your emotions and to make sure you understand what you're feeling. That's more Mercury. Writing it down, communicating it, that's Mercury. As opposed to just vibes, which is more the moon, and Venus, which is a feminine planet as well, which is all about the vibes. And the shadow manifestation is an intellect that is clouded by your emotions, an inability to find a step-by-step methodical approach to one's emotions. It's going to be the opposite, right? The extreme, right? Not being able to use the intellect to regulate emotions, or overly using the intellect to regulate their emotions, because at a certain point, it's only going to get you so far. Can't use your intellect for everything. Unfortunately, I know we're taught this in school. We use the intellect all the time. We're reading. You're kind of using the intellect right now. Maybe you're just listening and vibing, but most of the time you're processing things, and especially if you're learning, you're using the intellect, you're using the left brain. I'm doing this in a mercurial way, step by step, process, organizing it. But at the end of the day, to really feel at peace, to really feel in the present, to really feel happiness, fourth house, you got to be able to transcend the intellect and go into your feeling state, go into your mental space with no thoughts. Easier said than done, though. So yeah, too intellectual can cause problems with Mercury in the fourth, because you got that intellect melding with that intuition, and it can make a beautiful balanced sandwich combo, or it can lead to conflict. Now we have Venus. So Venus, when it comes to the mother is graceful, mother is diplomatic, mother is harmonious. Homeland has internal harmony going on. There's a lot of beauty, a lot of natural beauty, a lot of places to go where there's natural beauty. When it comes to your own home, you like to beautify. You like a nice, beautiful, natural, sensorially positive, meaning the senses are stimulated in positive ways. Like nice music, nice sounds, nice smells, nice tastes going on inside one's home. Mother is able to provide positive sensorial experiences. Country you live in, you feel like you resonate. Your senses are titillated in a positive way. Funny as titillated, it's a good word. Senses are titillated by the culture of your homeland. You like the food, whatever. Some people grow up in their homeland, they don't like the food. Eastern Europe, maybe. I mean, that's just me, I'm part Polish, so I didn't grow up there, but if I did, it'd be tough. It'd be tough for me. Be rough for me. And the negative side, the negative manifestation, is kind of what I just said, right? Maybe you grew up in Eastern Europe and you don't like porridge and pig face every day, or pierogies. Ugh. Your mother is not diplomatic, is not harmonious, doesn't know how to beautify things, is not very graceful, doesn't have the tact to teach you how to harmonize with your social environment, or doesn't teach you equal exchange. So there's kind of like power problems going on, power dynamic problems going on. And when it comes to your home, maybe not the most aesthetically pleasing, or you may not be able to afford an aesthetically pleasing place that titillates the senses in a positive way because you made bad choices in your life, or you didn't make the right choices in your life that led to the material abundance that you needed to have a home that you feel is beautiful, and have a home that feels like it makes you, it leads to pleasure, which is Venus. So a home, private life that lacks pleasure, or a mother that wasn't able to provide the pleasures or stimulate your senses in a positive way. Homeland can be applied to your country or homeland as well. The land you grew up in. The psychological aspects is somebody who has a natural, intuitive understanding of one's emotions, is able to find emotional balance more easily, is able to balance one's emotions with other people's emotions, so can find ways naturally to harmonize their emotional state with their partners or their friends or whoever they're interacting with in a more intimate setting, which is Venus. Moon is more like broader, like group social settings. Venus is more intimate, smaller, usually one-on-one trading exchanges. Okay. So in trading situations, relationship situations, there is an ability to maneuver emotions with grace, with tact, with diplomacy. You got the diplomat, the partner, the pleaser, the relating. Agreeable can be Venus. Can can um, can make choices that lead to emotional fulfillment based off the external world. So choosing things that fulfill one's emotions or emotional needs. Fourth house. And comfort zone is beautiful places, natural environments, sustainable places, because Venus is all about sustainability as well. It's natural, harmony, sustainability, beauty. All kind of, they're not pure synonyms. Obviously, they mean different things, but there's a lot of alignment between those words that I just said. And the home environment can be diplomatic itself. Private life is diplomatic. Okay, I forgot to mention that earlier when the physical. But going back to the psychological, shadow manifestations of Venus is one who, again, has their emotional needs and their emotional body reliant on the approval of other people. You can get some empathic people here, some strongly empathic people, meaning if they don't feel right, I don't feel right. Or if I don't feel right, they're gonna not feel right because I'm gonna make them know. I'm not gonna put on the social mask. I'm not gonna be graceful about it. I'm just gonna be like, this is how I feel, type energy. And the comfort zone where you don't feel like you made the right choices to create an environment you feel comfortable, or you feel uncomfortable in relationships, partnerships, trade, exchanges. You feel emotionally drained from these exchanges. But Venus is naturally the strongest. Like the Sun and Mars are the strongest in the 10th. The Moon and Venus are strongest in the 4th. So naturally, Venus is going to get some juice. You're going to have an ability to intuitively make the right choices to fulfill your emotional needs naturally. But also kind of depends on what planets Venus is conjunct with, if it's enemies or North Node, Rahu, Ketu, Saturn, things like that can affect it, cause some problems. Now we have Jupiter. Jupiter in the 4th, like I said, it expands things, brings fortune, wisdom, abundance, can bring the mother can be very wise, have a lot of abundance to share with you, can have a larger build. Doesn't mean fat or anything, it just means larger build. Could be taller, but in like a proportional way, not in a tall, skinny way, like I said before in past video, like Saturn, which is more tall, skinny, lanky. Homeland can be a big homeland or a homeland that is very spiritually focused, philosophically focused. The home can be very philosophically focused. Guru, priest, philosopher, guide, you take that into the home. You have a home that involves speaking about philosophy, speaking about transcendent concepts, speaking about religions, or things that mean something greater than this material world, where you feel like there's a lot of abundance, there's a lot of generosity, there's a lot of joy happening. In the 4th, Jupiter in the 4th can be great. All right. Or, a house or family, because 4th house is also like your extended family. 2nd house is your immediate family, but 4th house, you have a big family, extended family, or you feel like there's a lot of space, like your maternal figure gave you a lot of space to explore. Jupiter. Space to explore. Jupiter is the explorer. Mercury is the observer. And when it comes to the shadow manifestations, it can be a lack of abundance. It can be greed. It can be arrogance at home. Mother was arrogant, greedy, was not generous, was not giving, was ignorant in many ways. Homeland, same thing, can be restrictive. Not a lot of abundance, can be a poor country, or there's a lot of scarcity at home with the mother or in the homeland, scarcity, or just overindulgence. Mother gave you everything you wanted. Oh no, gave you too much. Right? Or the country itself is overindulgent. The homeland is overindulgent. Family is overindulgent. Because Jupiter, when it is afflicted, can lead to obesity because you're just constantly fulfilling the impulsive need to be joyful, to feel happy, and you can't deal with the negative emotions, which are represented more by Saturn and Mars. Okay? Freaking Rahu, Ketu, too. Goddamn. Psychologically speaking, one can naturally find joy in life, can have a natural feeling of joy with Jupiter in the fourth, feeling comfortable, sharing wisdom, being the guru around priests or philosophers, feel comfortable because of one's spirituality, because of the gurus and the guides and the teachers that one has in one's life, with all things that Jupiter represents. One's spiritual life gives them an emotional comfort, able to regulate their emotions through their wisdom and understanding, learning things, reading philosophical books and transcendent concepts, allows them to feel at peace, and fills their home and fills their internal space. But this can become dogmatic, again, arrogant, rigid in one's thinking. You got the guru who thinks they can't miss. They think that they're full on the shit and take advantage of that. So Jupiter in the fourth can have an over-reliance on having to feel positive emotions as well, if it's afflicted or if it's in a shadow manifestation where I have to feel happy, I have to feel good emotions all the time, and feeling any negative emotions, dealing with any difficulties, I need to run away from it, or I need to ignore it and act like it doesn't exist. So it can become pathological in that way, taking it to the extreme. Always needing to feel happy, like crazy smile on your face where your face gets stuck and it feels fake and forced, or an afflicted Jupiter where there is no joy internally, there's no meaning, there's no purpose. It can happen if Jupiter is debilitated in Capricorn, where everything kind of falls on your shoulders. There's no greater luck or fortune that's going to come from outside of yourself. You just feel like you have to do everything yourself. And that's at the core, the root core of who you are in an emotional sense, which is the fourth house. Finally, we put Saturn in the fourth. As we always say, Saturn, wherever it goes, it's going to be a little difficult. You can have an authoritative maternal figure. You can have a fear, trauma, scarcity at home, or related to one's homeland. Can have a very strict, rigid, austere homeland, home, private life, or mother who puts a lot of restrictions. We don't have enough time for this. We don't have enough money for this. You can't get this. No. Less. Jupiter's more yes. Saturn's more no. And that can be difficult. Now, positive is you can have, a solid, very disciplined, very resilient emotional foundation. You can have a very traditional and orderly home where everything is in its place. Also, probably more minimalistic on all things equal, being considered in equal fashion. So a minimalist, a clean, traditional, predictable, resilient household, mother. She can work hard. She busts her ass. She teaches you discipline. She's a very wonderful role model to get things done and to fulfill your duties and responsibilities. A home where everything is taken care of, even if it might be a little bit too rigid at times, because nothing's perfect. These are more positive manifestations. And that carries over to your psychological state as we talk about the psychology of the fourth house with Saturn in it. So you have comfort in discipline action, taking action, material success, material achievement, day in and day out, doing the grinding, persevering, fasting, minimalism, going without can help you regulate your emotions and lead to positive emotions, which can be a beautiful thing because those things are actually healthy for you. Obviously, you don't want it to be overly austere. You don't want to become like a pure aesthetic unless that's what you want. But being mindful of, is that your dharma? Is that your path? Or are you just doing it because you think you're supposed to be doing it? But with Saturn there in the fourth, it can lead to self-deceit. It can lead to repressed emotions. It can lead to restrictions in expressing one's emotions or feeling comfortable at home. There could be fear, like I said, trauma going on internally when it comes to the psychological states. There's going to be fear. There's going to be a lot of fear to work with. Usually it's going to be involving like the mother, whether it was something happened while you were in the womb with your mother, or in the first couple of years of life, or at home. They overly rigid, authoritative. Like I said, it can be tough. So Saturn in the fourth can be a tough situation. Being mindful of one's emotions, really tapping into one's true emotions, making sure you're not emotionally repressing the true feelings that you have, hiding them, sheltering them from the world, because when you lie to yourself, you lie to other people, and that is going to distort your reality and the reality that other people see, and so that will cause problems. We all lie to a certain extent to ourselves and others, but you want to limit it to the best of your possibility. No one's perfect. Neither am I, but we work towards, we move towards greatness, perfection, the best we possibly can, like a parabola. If you ever did trigonometry or geometry, it's just like that line that goes closer to perfect. You never get perfection until you're enlightened, but you get as close as you possibly can. Some people freaking stop here, and some people stop there, and some people are Gandhi, or not Gandhi, but I don't know, Mother Teresa. They're purely on that line. So that was Saturn and all the planets in the fourth house. Oh, and I almost forgot, servant, elderly, authority, shadow. So being of service at home, doing hard work, and the shadow represents, the fears, the trauma, the things I talked about before, the restricting one's emotions, hiding one's emotions, things like that. Okay, cool. So we got through it. The next video, we're going to do the fifth house, all the planets in the fifth house. So subscribe, stick around. And if you resonated with the things we talked about today, let me know down below in the comments. I always love to respond to you guys to the best of my ability. And I will see you in the next video when we talk about the fifth house, all planets. Cheers.